Hello, I'm Daniel, this is Chris, and you're watching the Superhero Show. Yes, that was the best name we could come up with. Now, this week we're talking X-Men, casting rumours as always, and loads of Captain America stuff. Now, Chris, I believe you have the first story.
Yeah, it's been a very big week in the world of X-Men Days of Future Past, because the filmmakers have debuted not one, not two, not three, but 25 new images.
They've gone mental.
They've gone crazy in the shape of 25 Empire magazine covers.
Because it's 25 years of Empire, is that why?
It is.
So there's a connection.
It is, but I find it a little bit annoying. I find it a little bit annoying because rather than debut them all at the same time, they did one an hour for 25 hours. Which, as just an online geek, it's a bit annoying having to go back every hour, especially when they won't blooming load up half the time.
Yes. Anyway.
And it started strong with the Sentinel cover.
I think that was probably the best one. It's the one that, like, compositionally looks the best. I think the Sentinel look is really nice and clean. I like the colours. I think they've realised it in a smart way. But then the covers continued in slightly uneven fashion.
Yeah, I mean, this should have been a bang, but it became more like a whimper as they went on. When you were just looking at them and you were scratching your head, some of the outfits didn't look great. Some of the characters didn't look good. One of the characters we don't even think's in the movie.
Well, this is interesting. I read up on it. So Rogue was one of the covers.
Yeah.
Now, a few weeks ago, Bryan Singer, the director, said that Rogue had been cut from the movie, but enigmatically says she'll still make an appearance. So what I think is the case, and what Empire have clarified, is that her big scene in the movie, maybe it's something with Bobby Drake, I don't know, or with Hugh Jackman, has been cut, but she might still appear in an ensemble shot here and there.
Yeah.
So she's not a prominent character, but also, like, there's some terrible covers. Like, imagine being the person who goes out and buys either the Quicksilver cover or the Toad cover.
Well, the Quicksilver cover did seem to cause some
furore.
Yeah, people weren't happy with that one online
because it was crap. No, it wasn't very good, though, was it? Like, I think there's been a publicity still since that it makes him look much better, but I think it's not a great Photoshop anyway, putting him in the background. But also the look of it, like, I don't like his Go-Go Gadget, Goonies style belt, and it just looks a bit naff.
Yeah, and did you not like Toad either?
No.
Was this not Vietnam vet Toad? Someone pointed out in our comments that it's kind of Travis Bickle Toad.
It does look a bit Travis Bickle with, like, the shaven head.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's very uneven, and then as you went on, it kind of went more into the future. So if you lay them all out, you've got this quite nice panorama. And ending with the Future Sentinel, which we've not seen before, which looks quite intimidating and forbidding. But, yeah, kind of a mixed bag.
Flying Professor X chair?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I still really want to see the movie. I think the trailer looks brilliant. I don't think you can judge it on a bunch of...
It's not fair to judge it on a bunch of stills, and I think we all did this when the first X-Men film came around. People didn't like the look of the characters on the page, but in the movie, we were pretty happy with them. I mean, one thing I will say is that was back at a time when I think we felt like studios were scared of putting people in their comic book costumes in movies because they thought it would look silly, and so our original X-Men were kind of all in leather and black and look cool, but
people like other people in leather.
But since then we've seen
embraced
Captain
it more.
America.
We've embraced it, and I think Marvel specifically have tackled that kind of... They've been very true to the source material and found a way to make it work. I think the X-Men is tonally slightly different. It's no way as serious as some of the Warner Brothers movies, but it is slightly apart tonally from the Marvel movies. And
I can see some consistency in the look of these characters to the Bryan Singer characters anyway, so I know, it'd be interesting. I did actually print out some of the comments underneath our article, positive and negative. I think the negative did outweigh the positive, but one person said, the Sentinel looks more like the Iron Giant with a space helmet and a spray-on violet paint job.
That sounds brilliant.
The Sentinel looks okay, but Toad and Quicksilver look bloody horrible. Quicksilver looks terrible. Toad looks weird. I'll miss the Ray Park Toad. I won't miss the Ray Park Toad. I didn't like him.
Who's, like, out there wanting Ray Park to return as Toad?
That would be Strevakos.
That's definitely his real name. Might be Greek.
Beast looks like a boss, one of the better designed costumes.
Okay.
But someone else said the Blue Wolfman, no thanks. He is looking a bit Wolfman.
Yeah, but I think we should probably drop in here. Like, I think you've been fortunate enough to go to lots of film sets, and sometimes things, when they've not been lit properly, not in motion, a lot of film stuff can look pretty naff when it's static in photographs or on set. But I think judge it when it's in motion and mid-action sequence. And if it still looks naff, then fair enough, you can bang them to rights. But yeah, maybe just some dodgy images.
And I think my favourite was someone said that Peter Dinklage looks like a dwarf Ron Burgundy. which he does with the porno moustache.
Yeah.
He's going to steal that film, even if he didn't steal the cover, because it looked a bit ridiculous. But yeah, that's that. I think you have some casting news, don't you, Dan?
Yeah, so kind of continuing on with X-Men, Lauren Shuler-Donner, who is the longtime producer of the X-Men movies, has said that she wants to make a standalone Gambit movie with Channing Tatum. Now, I've got a quote from her here. I've just copied this. She hadn't texted me. I'm dying to do a Gambit movie with Channing Tatum. That doesn't have to be a great big movie. It's a thief in New Orleans. It's a whole different story. He's on board, and I have to get the studio on board. How can anyone resist Channing? Now, Tatum's on board as well. Like, he loves the Gambit character. He says it's his favourite character. He's from New Orleans. His dad's from New Orleans. He wants to do the Cajun accent. And he was even considered for the role back in 2006 for The Last Stand, but got cut. Now, Gambit has been portrayed on the big screen by Taylor Kitsch in the Gavin Hood X-Men Wolverine movie.
Yep.
As a supporting character.
Yeah.
But Tatum seems up for it.
Well, if you'd said this to me 2 years ago, I would not have liked this. We didn't like Channing Tatum. I think he was just this hunky, dull guy. And then last year, or was it the year before, it all changed. 21 Jump Street, Magic Mike, Steven Soderbergh movies. Like, he's the flavour of the month now.
I think Taylor Kitsch was probably more kind of an easy fit, kind of aesthetically, for Gambit. Because I think everyone has that very distinct look for Gambit in their mind. But if he seems up for it, I think the bigger obstacle for them to overcome is selling Gambit as a standalone character. I think that's a very difficult sell. And I know she's talking it down and saying, oh, you do it as this more interesting, lower budget movie that isn't about spectacle. Which is interesting, but still, I don't... if they were ever going to do that kind of movie, I feel like it would have been more suitable for Wolverine.
Yeah, and Ryan Reynolds is trying to make that happen with the Deadpool movie. Yeah. They're trying to go low budget, independent, they can get their R rating.
I think there's definitely a space for that kind of superhero movie to be made, because you go lower budget, the expectations are lower, and it'll probably turn a decent profit, like a lot of horror movies do at the box office. But I think a lot of studios are hesitant to do that because they feel like superhero movies, maybe one of the reasons they do appeal is because of the spectacle. Mm-hmm. But Gambit's an interesting character to do it. I think we might see a change in mentality depending on how well something like Daredevil does on Netflix. If you can do Daredevil, lower budget, make it more about character and story and less about the special effects, you might get the sea change, or you might find studios being a bit more accommodating of these other genres. Now, Marvel's trying to do that, but they're still going for big budget stuff at the same time. Be interesting to see if one comes out and does kind of what Blade did back in the day.
Do you know what this story makes me feel sorry for, though? Right. Taylor Kitsch. Poor old Taylor Kitsch. John Carter. Battleship.
It'll be
Savages.
He's way better looking than I'll ever be. And richer, so I do not feel sorry for him.
But yeah, no more Gambit for him, I guess.
But I've got another casting rumour. So another one that's come up in the last week is Josh Gad. Josh Gad, you might know him from, if you've seen Book of Mormon in America, he was the eager kind of sidekick character.
That's what kind of put him on the map, wasn't it, really?
It was Elder Cunningham in that, and then he recently was in Frozen as Olaf the Snowman. And he's been rumoured as the voice actor, presumably, voice actor not playing him physically, Ben Grimm, the Thing, in the new Josh Trank take on Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Josh Trank has rubbished this on Twitter, but he's rubbishing a lot of rumours about casting, even some of the more credible ones.
Yeah.
And Josh Gad himself has denied it, but I don't know.
It's their job to deny these things until pen's put to paper.
And there's not much you can say about Josh Gad right now, apart from in Frozen, he delivers a brilliant vocal performance.
Well, I saw Jobs the other day, and he plays Steve Wozniak in that. Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, but, in Frozen, the dynamic is he is the kind of light relief. He's the eager, bounding character. Now, the wisecracker. Now, in the Fantastic Four chemistry, that's Johnny Storm. Like Chris Evans has even said this week, it's difficult for him playing Steve Rogers and being that kind of po-faced and serious. He quite likes being the Joker. Now, the Thing might have to be the butt of those jokes rather than the person dealing them out. But he's a very good vocal performer.
Yeah.
It Frozen shows that. So maybe that is picking up on what we said last week, where the Thing maybe should be CGI with a voice actor this time around.
It feels like we're getting close to an announcement on this, though. They're obviously seeing a lot of people right now. Is that it for the casting news?
It is indeed.
I have some Captain America stuff to talk about.
Loads of stuff.
Captain America 2, or Captain America the Winter Soldier, still hasn't come out. It's out in March in the UK and I think April in the States. But they're already sorting out directors for Captain America 3. Even though it hasn't been greenlit, even though there's no script yet, Apparently, they've been so happy with the final cut of the movie and test screenings that they are getting the same directors back on board.
Wow.
The lads are called Anthony and Joe Russo, two brothers who are best known for directing a bunch of episodes of Community. So this was a big step up for them to do a huge
also directed
movie.
You, Me and Dupree.
Well, I wasn't going to mention that. But yeah, they're obviously so happy.
They've done well.
The guys at Marvel that they're going to get to direct Superman 3. Superman 3?
They're going to get that gig as well.
Oh God, not a remake of that one. As long as it does well enough at the box office. So I guess there'll be an announcement on that kind of early May.
Okay.
So that's interesting. And at the moment they're putting together an outline for the movie. So full steam ahead on that front. And also we published our set visit from Captain America: Winter Soldier this week, and we did a long interview with Chris Evans on the set, and I've tried to pick out some of the more interesting things he said. It sounds like it's going to be a more kind of complicated story being present day in terms of the villainy. Chris Evans said, this movie's not about him trying to just acclimatise to the modern world, but I think it's always been Cap's goal to do what's right and be of service and to help where he can. In this movie, I think the question is, well, what is right? I think it was a lot easier in the 40s to know who the evil was. There's no disputing Nazis are bad. Now it becomes a little more...
He is right.
He's right. He's
Chris
not wrong.
Chris Evans knows his history.
You can't get much past him. Now it becomes a little more of a difficult answer. There's a lot more of a grey area of what is the right thing. So I think that's interesting to us.
Yep.
And he's also said that the film's going to have a grounded political thriller tone to it.
Well, this is the thing. When we did a preview of what we're looking forward to this year on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, I said I was interested in Captain America for that very fact that they're emphasising this like political thriller from the 1970s, so like 3 Days of the Condor, The Conversation, Parallax View, all that sort of stuff. And that's probably why they've got Robert Redford in it.
He was in a bunch of those movies.
Yeah, he's in a bunch of those movies, all The President's Men, that they want to have that kind of resonance to it. And I do find that's intriguing, mixing it with kind of the Winter Soldier, Russia again being the enemy. That's something I saw Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit recently.
Yeah.
And that's something that's doing, because in the kind of 21st century, you've got China, but you've also got Russia as the new evil, or an old evil returning, and this like ancient enmity between America and Russia.
I was going to say, I wouldn't be happy if I was Russia, because we had the Cold War, every movie in the 80s they were the villains, and then they got past it.
They're coming back. Well, it's all the money. It's the nouveau riche, it's the oligarchy, it's the country that is a corporation. Yeah. And I think they're melding that with kind of post 9/11 paranoia, surveillance paranoia, all that stuff's kind of filtering in. And what you're finding for Captain America, who in the first film, you know, maybe kind of a little bit of a dull character. Yes, he might be a dull character, but he kind of finds himself in situations that are quite rich politically and like thematically and all that sort of stuff.
Interesting. And Evans also talked a little bit about Captain himself. He said, talking about the original director, Joe Johnston, I think Joe liked a little bit more of a grounded Cap in terms of powers and abilities, just like a really impressive Olympics athlete, as opposed to someone who's ripping through cars and things like that. Which is fine, but I think we're trying to push it a little bit more in this one. I wouldn't mind pushing it a little bit more. You saw Avengers, those guys are good. I've got to have a reason to be on that team. So we're obviously going to see some superpowers.
I hope he rips a car.
He's ripping through cars. Expect to see that in the movie.
Yeah, good.
He was talking about the stuff that Jason Bourne does, and like times about 10. So I think we're going to see some proper
fighting with pens and rolled up newspapers,
jumping between buildings. I think we're going to see a much sort of bigger, badder Captain America in this one.
Cool.
Which I'm all about.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent.
I need to jump on.
You got some Avengers news?
I imagine on this show we might have Avengers news every single week.
Yeah.
But last week we were talking about Avengers 2 being darker. Now, Joss Whedon, the director, has said that it's going to be like Godfather Part 2, which is obviously a huge claim. But
everyone makes that name check when they're doing a Part 2.
Yeah.
They say this is our Godfather Part 2, or we want to be like the Godfather Part 2. Is it more in this?
Yeah, if you go past the sensational like comparison, and he knows he's making a big like invocation there, what he's actually talking about is approach to storytelling. So he's actually making a much more nuanced point. So between the Godfather Part 1 and 2, kind of a lot of events happen, but it doesn't patronise the audience when Godfather Part 2 say, you know what, this has happened, this is what's happened to Michael in between. It just assumes you're smart enough to infer that time's moved on and characters have changed somewhat.
So they're not going to feel the need to reference the standalone movies in this one?
Yeah, so I think one, it's a smarter storytelling. You don't have to waste half an hour doing exposition. Also, it's more inclusive. You don't have to see The Dark World, Iron Man 3, and all those movies to enjoy Avengers 2. So it's both pragmatic, but I also think it's sophisticated. And he said, the model I'm trying, he says, The Godfather Part 2, where a ton has happened in between, and it's a very different movie. You don't need any more information.
Okay.
So his emphasis is like, I'll be able to tell the story in 2 hours. I don't need any more help.
So we were imagining the Avengers have gone off and had adventures in between Part 1 and Age of Ultron, potentially.
I don't know. I think that would be a smart move, because otherwise they're going to be straight onto the next big bad, to use a Joss Whedon term, without being forged in battle.
Yeah, and I don't want to have too much explanation. You know, so much of the Avengers movie was explanation and putting stuff together. You just want them to hit the ground running in this one, don't you?
Yeah.
Start off with a better action sequence than the one from the first movie at the beginning.
What do you mean, just driving away from a building?
Yeah, definitely better than that.
Okay.
Talking about Thor: The Dark World as well, there was a little funny GIF went on the internet this week that we posted on the site. It's come from Thor: The Dark World Blu-ray, which is coming out in the next few weeks, and it's images of Tom Hiddleston's audition as Thor rather than Loki, which he talks about at the end of last year, actually. He said that he put on 20 pounds and auditioned originally for Thor, and he said he was very uncomfortable with all this muscle because that's not his kind of natural habitat.
Physique.
Yeah, and but yeah, if you watch the GIF, he looks absolutely ripped. He does look quite Thor-like. I mean, he's no Chris Hemsworth.
He's not. Yeah, he's not as bulky or as huge as Chris Hemsworth. Like, yeah, he looks weird with the kind of like the sun bleached hair. He looks a bit more surfer dude, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even though he's put on 20 pounds, his frame is obviously much slighter than Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah,
and obviously that's probably not the only thing that edged it, but maybe counted against him.
But I think, thank God he didn't, because he's a great Loki.
And he's a better Loki. I've said this before in The Office. I think Loki was a really important villain for the Marvel Universe to hit upon. I think a big problem the Marvel films encountered a lot was, it was in Spider-Man, the early ones, where you've got this kind of disconnect in the final act. You've got a villain behind a mask, or you've got a CGI character, like in the original Iron Man movie. Loki it was almost kind of this Joker character where there was a human manipulator, and it gave a very human face to the evil.
Plus, as an actor, like, which one would you rather play?
Yeah.
It's a gift, that role, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's just a gift at the moment, but I imagine we'll see his full-on audition on the Blu-ray. I mean, it actually got me thinking about a feature which we'll be posting over this weekend of other auditions that didn't happen, and found a couple of superhero ones on YouTube. Josh Hutcherson, there's a 3-minute audition for Spider-Man that people might have seen, The Amazing Spider-Man, for the role that went to Andrew Garfield. I found Stockard Channing's audition for Lois Lane for the original Superman motion picture, which is a really good audition. And then a few others that aren't quite superheroes, but like Tom Selleck's Indiana Jones, Kurt Russell's Han Solo. So that was really interesting. Like, in a parallel universe, what might have been.
Yeah. What if?
What if?
But you know what's coming to this universe?
What's coming to this universe?
This is the Marvel live action tour arena universe thingy.
Okay, convince me about this.
That is the official title. So similar to the Batman tour that went around arenas a few years ago.
Which we went to see.
It's kind of this big live action spectacle. So they're uniting a lot of the Marvel heroes across studios, ones that have been dispersed across studios even. So you're going to have the Hulk, Thor, Wolverine and Spider-Man all involved on the same show. And the plot was revealed this week, and it's kind of riffing off the Avengers plot. It's about Loki, it's about the Cosmic Cube, it's about stopping him. But they also released a little video showing you some of the practical effects and machinery they're working on for the movie, like Doc Ock's arms, the ability to make Captain America's shield fly across a room on a thin wire, all this sort of stuff, building a mech suit that will make a man look like the Hulk, all this kind of stuff. And that's going on tour in America later this year in the summer. But I imagine that will be quite successful.
Yeah, I mean, the Batman was pretty successful, wasn't it? That one felt like it was. We went to see it and we enjoyed it, but it felt like it was aimed more at kids than us.
Well, I think,
which is fine.
I think that's what this is. Like,
Do you think?
Yeah, because my nephew in the last year, he's been to these kind of shows a few times. He's been to like the Walking with Dinosaurs 3D experience where dinosaurs walk around like the arena. And I think it's definitely aimed at families. I'm pretty sure we'll go see it.
Of course we will.
We're not related.
And that's it for this week. So if you want to write to us or have any suggestions for the show or things you want us to talk about or maybe casting suggestions, because we seem to have lots of casting rooms each week.
Just don't be mean.
Just write to us. IGN_UK feedback at IGN.com. And that's it for this week. We'll be back next week, though, talking more superheroes. So thanks for watching.